Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Whatever. I feel like it's been a spell since I've updated you guys on this particular podcast. Unfortunately, not every night I can come up with a 30-minute rant for just about whatever, but I do appreciate you guys checking out the episodes that I've posted so far. The feedback's been pretty good, and I expect the feedback on this one to be quite interesting because it's going to be dealing with a very, very, very tricky situation we find ourselves currently in right now, especially if you happen to be a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and wondering what is going to happen next. Now, I've covered this quite a bit on Twitter. I've covered this in 2 videos on the main channel, and you might be asking, why the fuck? Why are you going to do this? Well, because there's things I've missed in both. And there's this, I need to get this off my chest because it's been draining me for the past couple days. And it's one of the reason why it's been draining me so much has a lot to do with the fact that people, I think, are being willfully ignorant or gleefully obtuse in regards to this situation, in regards to the context of the situation, and probably ultimately the truth of the situation. Because Occam's razor applies in many instances here, but people out there simply don't want to believe it. In fact, many out there, when hit with I guess you could call it this knowledge, so to speak, tend to move the goalposts because they have to be right. Well, I always feel like I also have to be correct. So this is why I want to put it out there. For those of you who are uninitiated, James Gunn, writer-director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, Volume 2, Slither, Super, writer of Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 remake, writer of Scooby-Doo 1 and Scooby-Doo 2, and writer of Troma Films' Tromeo and Juliet, has found himself in a bit of a hot situation. Now, he was terminated from Disney. They severed all business ties with him on Friday after tweets came to light from over a decade ago, in some cases, where he he had made some pretty edgy comments, right? And I've seen a lot of virtue signaling in regards to people who will not read it. It's so terrible, so provocative, so over the top. They can't bring themselves to read it. I'm not even kidding you. I've heard that from a few people, and I just roll my eyes. Look, this shit's terrible, okay? But don't, you've read worse things that get sent to you on Twitter. I guarantee you, I've had worse things sent to me on Twitter because I've defended this guy and defended this situation. So yeah, we will talk about that. So James Gunn had tweeted out a bunch of things over the course of years, again, about a decade ago, a little bit beyond, where he had made pro-rape, pro-pedophilic comments, some alluding to homophobia, some alluding to racism. These were not good tweets. I just want that to be abundantly clear. These were not good. These were bad. I don't support them. No one I have talked to who has even remotely defended the situation thinks that these are funny. Provocative, yes. Shocking, yes. But that was the entire point of making them. What you have to understand about James Gunn, before we just dive into the rest of it, is when I previously mentioned Tromeo and Juliet, he was paid $150 back in the 90s to write this movie for Troma Pictures under Lloyd Kaufman. And if you don't know about Lloyd Kaufman, if you don't know the type of shock cinema that Lloyd Kaufman makes, you should really go check it out because it's really interesting kind of stuff. And that's where he got his start. That's where his humor lies. That's where he was able to first make his mark, so to speak. And yes, he kind of incorporated a little bit of that into Dawn of the Dead from 2004, as well as a couple dark bits of humor from Scooby-Doo 1 and Scooby-Doo 2. But when you have the advent of Twitter, when you started seeing celebrities, big and small, make their way to the platform, which, by the way, was heavily promoted by Ashton Kutcher. So I don't know why that's relevant. I just feel like it's a relevant little factoid to add in there. He was the first person to ever hit 400,000 Twitter followers, by the way. But the point there is, he went there, and in around 2008, around that time and beyond, for a couple of years, at least till around 2012, when there was what could argue one could argue would be a cultural shift, so to speak. He was an edgy boy. He was an edgelord. It was terrible. It's not funny. It's stupid stuff. But it was all designed to be shocking and provocative in 140 characters. And we've all seen accounts like that. I guarantee it. I just feel like I'm going to have to reiterate this like 4 or 5 times. I don't support what he said. I'm merely adding some context to why he said it. Now, many people have looked at those tweets and assumed that is 100% proof, 100% proof, undeniable evidence that this man is a pedophile. Now, I don't know about you. But I know about me. And I view it like this. If you are going to make the accusation that somebody is a pedophile, that somebody is and has done the most terrible thing to a child you can do, you'd better have some good, hard fucking evidence. If not, then shut the fuck up. Because that's not an insult you throw at somebody. That's not an ad hom you throw at somebody. That is a serious goddamn accusation. And these tweets do not back it up. They don't. They're just stupid. They're just terribly stupid. But then you've also got the blog posts. And there's one in particular, and this one I really like. I like it because it's easy to debunk. And it's fun to debunk because people haven't gone through the process of trying to answer it, of trying to find the truth, right? So James Gunn posted to Twitter a link to his blog. And it just says, video, 100 pubescent girls touching themselves. Now, people lost their minds. I'm talking from the rafters, screaming to the heavens. They lost their mind over this. That, to them, 100% undeniable, unequivocal evidence that James Gunn is a pedophile. 100%. That was their smoking gun. And to many of them, that's still their smoking gun. Hate to break it to you, it's a fucking dud. Right? It's a dud. Here's what it is. Somebody, and this guy, I give this guy credit, went into the Wayback Machine, found an archive image of it, went into the metadata of the page, found what he was linking to. And what was he linking to? Oh, a video on Twitter, or on YouTube, sorry, of a girls' choir singing I Touch Myself. Shocking. Terrible. Disgusting. And perfectly fine of a video to share. With a provocative title, which goes in line with provocative commentary that he had made in the past. Are we starting to notice a pattern here? Are we starting to notice maybe there's a bit of dark humor in James Gunn's life? Maybe he goes to a place that not a lot of people would go. And he says a lot of really dumb things. But maybe that's where it is. And maybe that's what people should focus on in terms of the simplest explanation is often the truest. Occam's razor. All right. Now, but then when we move back into the goalposts being shifted because they want to argue that this is legitimate, that this is real, that he's 100% a pedo. I always get a kick out of this. He deleted some tweets. Yeah, that's an understatement. He deleted a lot of tweets. We're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000, roughly, give or take. Now, a lot of people out there looked at this as being absolute proof that he's a pedo. Again, by arguing, and I've seen this from multiple different people saying those are all pedophilic tweets. He deleted all pedophilic tweets. He tweeted out 10,000 pedophilic tweets. That's their argument. And I'm just like, no, that's not the case. Again, he even posted on Twitter from one date in 2007 to another date in 2011. He was obviously, he accidentally posted it. It was meant to probably be a DM. And as a result of that, people got an idea of what he was up to. He was scrubbing his account. Because at that point in time, when all of these things are coming back out, people, you're going to scrub it. Any person who's like a PR rep or like a crisis response team type thing, they're going to tell you to scrub it. And so he went and he found a website, probably tweet deleter, tossed him a couple shekels, and mass deleted those particular things, those tweets, 10,000 over the span of about 4 years. which feels like minimal amounts considering how many times we all tweet now. But back in the day, back in 2008, back in 2009, man, getting to like 10,000, getting to like 2,000 tweets felt like a fucking milestone, right? It felt like a milestone. So he deleted all those things. You know, he probably downloaded the backup archive because you can do that, but he deleted them. And so there's that. But that's really about it. He just deleted the old tweets. And people are again trying to argue, trying to say that this is proof, this is evidence, this is the reality of the situation that James Gunn is a pedophile. All without ever once actually providing hardcore evidence suggesting that accusation is remotely legitimate. Now, I got into a big call last night. I was on this live stream, and we're talking about the situation. And I'm taking calls. They brought me in to defend it, right? And again, the same kind of arguments and whatnot. But people I don't think they want to believe that they could possibly be wrong because of the nature of what he said. Now, I have to reiterate, I don't agree with what he said. I don't support what he said. But I support his right to free speech, and I'm a free speech absolutist. So I'm not happy with him being terminated, especially when Disney was fully aware of the situation. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do you know Disney was aware? Truth of the matter is, 100% can't quite tell you that it's all there. But there's a couple key indicators. And we have to go way back to 2012. Now, if you recall, I said that he deleted tweets from 2007 to 2011, anything pretty much before what feels like 2012. And so he's out there, doing his thing, trying to get jobs in Hollywood, not really working. Marvel coming off the Avengers big opening, $2 billion. They go to Comic-Con and they say, hey, we're working on this movie. We're working on this franchise. Guardians of the Galaxy. No director at the time. I was in the room when they announced it, right? No director at the time. And they that was the thing. So then 2 months later, we catch word, this is September 2012, that James Gunn is in talks to direct it. And then we find out that he is going to direct it. Now, keep in mind, his blog was entirely provocative with a lot of dumb shit. His Twitter was full of a lot of dumb shit. Yet, magically, November 29th, 2012, he issues an apology for everything. Predominantly the blog. But he issues an apology. Right? Says that it's not him, it's not who he is, it's dumb stuff, it is what it is. But he was getting out ahead of this potential shitstorm. Right? Getting out ahead of it, which makes sense. It's understandable if you think about it. It's really understandable when you think about it like that. So that was November 2012. That was November 29th, 2012. Not much out of him since then. I think there's been a couple off-color jokes that I've seen. Nothing to the extreme level he went before, right? And again, people have tried arguing that is again legitimate proof. It's not. It's very circumstantial. But as it was pointed out to me last night, we are not in a court of law. We are in the court of public opinion. So evidence and relying on the preponderance of such means dick. So there we go on that one. Faith in humanity restored, right? Jesus Christ. So fast forward to last year, May 3rd, 2017. An article is posted, very in-depth profile piece on James Gunn gets published to BuzzFeed. Now, this is interesting because I read through the article and it goes through his life where he talks about how when he was in Catholic school in Missouri back in the 80s, one of the, I think it was the Monsignor, was giving young boys beer and showing them pornography. And when James Gunn tried to speak up, tried to say something about it, he was just ignored. Now, that doesn't, he had issues with that growing up. He wishes he would have done more, which is probably one of the reasons why he became as vocal as he did during the whole Me Too movement thing. But there's that. Anyway, inside of this profile piece, he talks about his career. He talks about where he was coming up from. He talks about all of these things. And then he gets to this passage where he starts talking about Twitter. And not current Twitter. We're talking 5 years ago Twitter. So that would have been 2012. That would have been right around the same time he got hired to work at Marvel. 5 years. Now, when he talked about this, when he talked about himself, he acknowledges, he admits that he wasn't a good person, that he wasn't doing good things, and that it took getting the job at Marvel to force him to start thinking about writing another way, to start thinking about being a different person, to write jokes that are funny, but not relying on shock humor, to do better in his storytelling, and to ultimately just be a better person. And you know what? I have seen nothing but support from his friends suggesting that that is exactly the case. That being given that opportunity to step into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to take on, at this point, what I would argue would be the first family of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and have it actually come out of nowhere to become a success, earning $773 million on its first outing, and then following up with a sequel a couple years later that made $830 million, I think. These are popular films that are very personal to James Gunn. They're very, very personal to him as a character because there's growth there, and you can see it. You can see his growth as a writer. You can see how he's trying to make it about family. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and about how it has to deal with parents, especially fathers. And that resonated with me heavily when I watched the movie, with my own father, who I've had kind of an odd relationship with for my entire life. So that was odd, right? Go to see the movie and it's like, oh, this father-son shit. I'm like, oh, crap. I had no idea. Shit. Thankfully, if my dad caught on, he did not say anything. So that kind of saved the evening there, so to speak. But you can see there's growth in character. You can see that there's growth as a person. And that's being corroborated by many different people. Now, the question with all this is, what do we do? Where do we go? What should we try to do now? He's been fired. Unceremoniously canned by Alan Horn. Many people cheered it on the right. Many people on the left hated it. Now, the right argues that they're trying to hold him to the same standard, and that basically James Gunn is simply just a casualty of war, casualty of the identity politics war, the culture war currently going on, which in essence is absolutely true. But I think it also serves as a turning point, to be honest with you. I think this moment will be pivotal. A lot of people have inquired about Roseanne. They've inquired about the connection between the two. They've said, well, wait a minute here. Hold on. What about Roseanne? Why did Roseanne get fired? We should be okay with this. And James Gunn himself was actually okay with this. In a tweet, he did acknowledge that Roseanne should have been fired because of what she said. And many people have taken that as to be like, oh, well, he's okay with it. Well, here's a counter to that, though. Roseanne was fired for what she said while she was under the employ of Disney. James Gunn was fired for things he said while he wasn't employed by Disney. Things he had atoned for publicly a couple times when getting this stuff working with Disney. Things that Disney, I guarantee you, was absolutely aware of. Considering the fact that they vetted him ahead of time. Considering the fact that they all vet everyone ahead of time. They want to make sure that they're bringing in the right people that aren't going to screw things up. So they knew about this. And they didn't care. So why is it now all of a sudden that they care? In my opinion, it has a lot to do with the 21st Century Fox purchase. Now, that's one of the things that happened with Roseanne as well. Roseanne got fired and their stock prices took a hit, but they were in the process of trying to orchestrate this deal with Rupert Murdoch for the film and entertainment assets at 21st Century Fox, and they didn't want to fuck it up. They didn't want to fuck it up at all. So they fired her. Now, I think Roseanne could have probably made a comeback off of that had she not also gone further down off the deep end afterward. And I think she was enabled by people who did not have her best interest at heart. Whereas in the case of James Gunn, He issued a statement taking full responsibility and left it at that, like an adult. Roseanne, not so much. I like to point out, and I'm not too sure if I've already said this, but I don't believe that Roseanne should have been fired for that initial tweet. Because if you look at the context of that tweet, to me, it spoke that she was referring to, well, Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes, authoritarian regimes. But then she also later on herself commented that it was her looks that she said that. But then she's also contradicted that statement down the road. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. I think we can agree, all can agree, there were just poor decisions aplenty. Poor decisions aplenty. But here's the thing. Mike Cernovich, the guy who first kind of made this come to light, people have been calling him like an alt-right white supremacist, of which I don't believe that he is. So I don't believe that he's an alt-right white supremacist. He's definitely a chucklefuck. He's definitely a person I vehemently dislike. And I have for quite some time. I have since the Gamergate days. Because Cernovich kind of came on that scene and was a lawyer and validated Gamergate. And a lot of us at the time just kind of let him come in and didn't really question anything. We should have. That was clearly on us. Clearly on us. But he gained a following. Good for him. But here's the thing. So last night, he tried this attack once again because he'd made comments. He had said more firings are coming. Or he says it very high-pitched because he has a very high-pitched voice. So he says this, more firings are coming. And he goes after another Trump critic by the name of Michael Ian Black. Now, Michael Ian Black is a real condescending asshole from time to time. He's a real dick from time to time. So, I can see why they targeted him. But man, what they pulled out of that was just bad. What they pulled out of that was it's lame shit. They're trying to connect it to Pizzagate by having some comments in there about pizzas. One of the jokes was like Tinder for pizza. And someone's like, that's proof he's a pedophile. Like, oh my God. Like the joke there is, you're like the joke, your head from the distance from the earth to the moon is how far away that joke is from you. Like I said, people who want to start seeing things are going to start seeing things. People who want to start believing this kind of stuff, they're going to believe it because they don't want to question it. Now, granted, I'll give Cernovich credit that he's pulling from Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, rule number 4, hold the enemy to their own standards. I get what he's doing. I don't personally believe that is the right course of action. Because if you want there to be change, you do kind of have to be the change you want to see in the world. You don't hold them to their standards. Ultimately, maybe at first to get their attention, but at the end of the day, the only standards you can truly hold them to are yours. You can. That's it. That's really about it. It boils down to principle at the end of the day. Are you out to just destroy someone's life because you want them to be a victim or a casualty of this culture war? Or are you trying to actually elicit some change? It really does boil down to the person, whoever thinks that. I can't tell you what to think. I don't know. But here's why I think this whole situation is really ultimately going to backfire. Because we're seeing this pushback. Now, him going after Michael Ian Black the way that he did with the weak collage of tweets. Now, don't get me wrong. There were a couple in there that were like, ooh, yeah, come on, man. Like, those are kind of, that's going too far. The iCarly comment was like really just like, dude. But now, with the help of 4chan, they're going after Patton Oswalt, Amy Schumer, Sarah Silverman. They've got a hit list of people right now that are anti-Trump that they are actively going through. I was just perusing the threads. They are legitimately attempting to orchestrate a coordinated attack against celebrities as a way to use past tweets, most of which are coming pre-2012, when Twitter was very much a different place and people were also a different place in their lives. And they're trying to use that, any kind of uncouth joke, any kind of dark humor, any kind of racial joke, sexist joke, things like that. They're trying to use it as a way to get these people in trouble. Now, it could work the way they want it to, and it could take out all these people. I don't think it will. But the only positive I could see from this thing would be if it comes back to them, and by them, I'm just referring to like the colloquial version of the left, realizes that they can't fire everybody, so they just don't. And that point, it opens up a level of weakness in case someone on the right says something stupid and they can argue it. Now, ultimately, I would prefer that to be the course of action, where instead of just firing someone for having a bad opinion, you give them the opportunity to change and grow depending on what that opinion is, right? If you're going to fire someone because they liked the wrong tweet, which apparently has happened, that is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. It's terrible. That's stupid. So stupid. But if they're out there saying some they're out there saying some questionable stuff that's not entirely horrible, and they're not calling for the violence or death or destruction of anybody or anything illegal, yeah, I'm kind of like more like, all right, give them the opportunity to kind of come back from it, right? To kind of come back from it. Because I feel like that's ultimately best. But here's the thing, though. In regards to Gunn, everybody's pissed. Fans of James Gunn, fans of Marvel, movie fans in general, they are furious at this thing. There is a change.org petition that started up tonight that only had a couple thousand. It got retweeted out by a few big people. It's over, I think last I saw, it was over 15,000. I don't know where it's at right now. You have celebrities that are furious about this because they know James Gunn, and they know what type of tactics are being used. And you've got the movie bloggers, the movie journalists, that while this weekend were all completely enamored by Comic-Con, so their coverage was kind of split. Monday they're going to be back in the office, and they're going to be needing to they're going to be needing to mount a defense, because they're going to. I don't know if it's going to end up with James Gunn getting rehired. I have made the case for believing why he should be rehired, because this thing is stupid. It's really stupid. All the available evidence doesn't amount. All the available information doesn't amount to the evidence, the smoking gun that people want. And when presented with a debunking claim, it pretty much evaporates their original argument. So then they move on to something else, because they're shifting the goalposts in order to maintain some kind of narrative. James Gunn is not a pedophile at this point, as far as we know. So making that accusation against him over stupid jokes says more about you than it does him. You at this point are looking for that boogeyman. You are looking for that person to be this way. Why? Do you just want to see this person be destroyed because he doesn't like Donald Trump? I mean, honestly, that's a question. That's a question only you can answer. And I will say this, though, in my video earlier about why James Gunn should be rehired, I have had at least 4 or 5 people change their mind as a result of that. I'm not even kidding you. 4 or 5 people have changed their mind from where they originally stood to, well, maybe this isn't that big of a deal. Maybe Disney overreacted. Now, that's a small amount of people, but man, that's pretty impressive still. That once you present the facts the way that they are, once you acknowledge, interpret it from a logical, reasoned, middle ground perspective, and actually look into it a little bit, you can basically kind of get an idea for where things are and what's going on. No torches, no pitchforks, just logic. It's the way things should be, but they're not, unfortunately. Really, unfortunately. Now, again, I don't know if the movie bloggers or the fans are really going to be able to persuade them to bring him back. I don't hold any illusion in my head that he's going to come back, right? Like it's a hard sell. But with failed attempts at trying to go after Michael Ian Black, and 4chan trying to set up hit lists going after people that they don't like, it could be actually grounds for a decent argument that they're trying to target these people and therefore ruin their lives. And Disney might look at that and go, yeah, maybe it's not as bad as it seems. Or, and this is the other side, and this is a big if, by the way, or fans do get pissed. And fans straight up just start boycotting everything Disney. Disney's got movies coming out all the time. If fans stop going, or they don't go to the next Marvel movie, very similar to how Star Wars fans didn't go see Solo, right? And the next Marvel movie is fucking Captain America or Captain Marvel, right? In March of next year, meant to be the flagship outing of Carol Danvers that's going to lead the Marvel Cinematic Universe into the next 10 years and predominantly be the face, taking over for Iron Man. If fans don't go and see that, if they by that point in time are so disillusioned and so angry and so upset at Marvel still that they hold on to this resentment and they just do not go and see the movie, that will decimate Marvel's track record. It will kill their flagship series for the next 10 years, and it will force them to recalibrate everything, which, because James Gunn was also going to be the architect of the next couple of years of Marvel, setting up a lot of threads for the cinematic universe. Yeah, that's a long play, but they're going to feel it in the end. So my recommendation would be this: Bob Iger assesses the situation, works with Alan Horn, Kevin Feige, James Gunn to issue a statement and kind of pull what happened with Sam Cedar. Because I want to mention that too. I only spaced on Sam Cedar. So Sam Cedar is I guess you'd call him a pundit, so to speak. And he had a joke that was unearthed by Mike Cernovich, making a crack about Roman Polanski, a pedophilic one, by the way. And Cernovich used that as a way to get, Sam Cedar have his contract revoked from MSNBC. And then after a big online outrage push, MSNBC took another look at the situation and deemed it, again, this is very similar in terms of context from what Gunn has done, that it was a non-issue, and they reinstated Sam Cedar. Now, with Cernovich's track record and the fact that he is a chucklefuck of epically scummy proportions, it's entirely possible that Disney will, after the course of the weekend, noticing the backlash, noticing how things are going, get to a point and just say, you know what, maybe we made a mistake. Now, I don't know. A lot of people are mad at James Gunn for what he said, and I understand that. Those are provocatively stupid tweets. They shouldn't have been said. They're dumb as shit. I don't support it. But we also have to start asking ourselves, how far do we want to take things in this culture war? Right? Now, people on the right would argue, but it's what the left would do to you. Maybe. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat that. Yeah, maybe. But we should always, always, always push for cooler heads to prevail. That logic and reason outweighs emotion every time. And until we start pushing for that, we're just going to keep going and repeating this perpetual cycle that will continue to increase, become more vitriolic, become more over the top, become more crazy, and more people are going to be victims to it. To what extent? I don't know. To what purpose? Again, I don't know. For the W? I mean, if you scorch earth along the way, you're not going to have much there when you win. If you win. I'm just saying. There are way better tactics to deal with this. But the internet does in fact love a witch hunt. So looking at James Gunn, they want him to be a pedophile. And I've had people tonight tell me that apparently I have sex with my daughter because I have chosen to look at this as objectively as I possibly can. So, and these are conservative people that are telling me that I fuck my kid as a way for that. That's great. Thanks, guys. It's real progressive of you, right? That's real. It's ridiculous. That's where we are. I could sit there till the end of time and say, I don't agree with what he said. Here's the explanation for it. Here's what he said in the past. Here's how he's changed. Nope. Apparently it's pretty bad, but that again is where we find ourselves. So I do want to know your guys' thoughts on this one. Let me know down in the comments. They should be rapidly interesting. If you have made it this far and you want me to know you made it this far, the word of the day is tweet. I'm never good at these things. I just always pick the first thing that comes to mind. That's fine. And I'll talk to you guys later. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This has been Whatever. Have yourself a great day, a great weekend. Stay safe. Don't do dumb shit on social media. And remember that humans make mistakes. But not every mistake indicates that they're a bad person overall. And if we ever give into that mindset, if we ever give into that mentality entirely, then we're literally no better off than who we claim to hate. And that's not who I want to be. That's not the country I want to live in. And that's not the legacy I want to leave behind for my kid. So that's where I stand. What about you? Have a good one.